Hey, everybody, it's time for a new episode of Grant Draws. Today on the show, we have Jerry Carita. Is that how you pronounce it?
It is. You nailed it.
Cool. Cool. So as usual, our sponsor is the Independent Creator Directory. If you don't know what that is, you should check it out. Uh, Essentially, what it is it's the Internet Movie Database, but for independent creators. Not just independent comic book creators, but also like board game designers, role playing game designers, that sort of thing. It's pretty cool. If you're interested in joining it, you can always talk to Joe Bachman, who's on all or most of the social medias. I'm going to go through comments real quickly, and then we will look at my Kickstarter, and then we will look at Jerry's. Dan is saying good evening. Don is saying hi to Dan. Carl's saying hello. Don is also saying good evening. Carl's saying fancy seeing you in here, Don. And Don is also saying hi to Don. No see but here. Donna is saying don't forget to like and share. Hey, Grant, and welcome, Jerry. I did mention that we were going to start a couple minutes late, which is okay. And Carl said that they are self-entertaining. Carl is saying little BB didn't want to go to the vet, so she ran Donna and I around the house a few times. Then she was still as a statue in the vet's office. So I'm glad you finally got her there. I wish there was some way to communicate with our pets that, going to the vet isn't just us being cruel to them, that there actually is a goal for all of this, And Carl's also saying hi to Grant and Jerry. So thank you guys all for your comments, and I am going to share the screen. My comic book. So League of Cryptids passed the halfway point this weekend, which was pretty awesome. We just have another $1,200 or so to get us completely backed. And for those of you guys who don't know, I'm assuming most of you guys know about League of Cryptids already, but for those of you who don't know, the idea is essentially that cryptids are ancient aliens who were put here to protect and help Earth develop. And in this particular storyline, they have to come together to stop an alien invasion by a group of aliens who are modeled after a different cryptid, which is called the Loveland Frogman. As always, you can get issues number 1 and 2 also. So yeah, I will put the link in the chat for this. How are you doing this evening, by the way, Jerry?
I'm living the dream every day of my life, Grant. I don't know whose dream it is, but I'm living it.
I'm going to bring up your comic book. I was looking at this a little bit before. Wow, 450 pages. That's a lot.
Well, so it's a few issues. It's not just one. That's what's included. If you're new to the series, you can get up to that many. If you're buying all back issues.
So issue 4 is what? Probably a little bit over 100.
Issue 4. So no. So it's there's a longer story, but it's an anthology series, and it's sort of an evolution of an older anthology project. And the older project were 2 larger books. Each one was about 120 something pages. So each issue of our series, The Cloakroom, is anywhere from 50 to 75 pages, depending on how many stories and sort of how long they all are. So in total, if you're buying all 4 issues of The Cloakroom and the 2 volumes of the older series, which is the Tales from the Cloakroom, then it's 450 pages altogether.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, do you want to give your basic spiel about
I
what
would.
the cloakroom is?
So it all kind of spawns out of Scott Snyder's Substack, his writing class that he does through his Substack, um, which is awesome. And if anyone is looking for learning about the craft, he's really great at talking about it. He was a teacher before moving entirely into writing, and he still loves teaching, which is why he does it. And so what it is a group of students in the class years ago got together and decided we're gonna put together an anthology project with just stories created by people in Scott's class. And so they did that. It's called Tales from the Cloakroom. A year later, a totally different group of kids in the class. I say kids, but a group of students in the class got together and did a second volume. Both of them had great experiences, but everyone has day jobs and they weren't going to do another one. So my partner and I, her name's Veronica Howell, we took it over. And rather than try and do one big book every year, we turned it into an ongoing thing. So we've been doing it for about a year and a half. This is our fourth issue. We're averaging about 3 a year. So this is the fourth issue. We have a fifth issue that we're working on now. Our sixth issue will be at the end of this year. It'll be a holiday issue. But they're all stories that are created by people in Scott Snyder's writing class. So we've had something like 130 or 140 submissions at this point. But each one of these stories you're scrolling past here was written by someone in the class. And then what we do is we help them find an artist to work with. We help them get it lettered. We help them with the actual production of the book. We are doing it for editorial experience ourselves. So, we'll also creatively talk to you about your story and why are you writing this story, and try and help you make the best version of your own thing, of your own story. So that's the whole project in a nutshell. We've had a couple of repeat creators, but what's great about this is almost everybody who's been published, it's one of their first times or their first time getting published anywhere, and it's legit. I'm Thorny Comics is me. I'm a real publisher. We pay for the pages. All the profits. If this book, if we cover our hard costs after whatever we covered for paying for the pages and for art and stuff like that, covers, all of the additional money will go back to the creators from the class. So
Right.
We're not turning a profit from it either. So this is like a really great way to support indie comics and indie comics creators. And it sort of works. We haven't turned a profit. We're close on the first couple of issues actually to turning a profit. We had some initial design work we had to pay for that was pretty expensive.
So I see here that you have a tier that is actually signed by Scott Snyder. So
Yeah.
So he actually is involved in the making of the comic book. He's not just putting his name on this.
No, he doesn't get anything out of it. It's basically it's like the students in the class have come up with a way to create a kind of like doctoral thesis level to his class. And so what happens is some people who are in his Substack in his class, there's a tier called the Founders tier, where you get access to him. And so you can send him your pitch, your idea, and he'll give you feedback on it. And so a lot of the people who we're getting now are people he's actually sending our way. So they'll come to him with a story idea. He'll workshop it with them a little bit. And then when it comes to like, okay, it's time to kind of get an editor on it and you're ready to pitch this story, he'll send them our way. And so Scott, this is kind of the way he supports the project, is we put his name on it. He sort of helps guide, every one of the stories that we're writing anyway. A lot of them you'll see in the book, every story has a page where we ask the creator to kind of tie it back to the class and sort of what thing. A lot of times, like we had a short story that was a quick little fun mystery story that was because Scott described in one class, Scott described the easiest way in his mind to write a mystery is you've got a secret that two people know and the third person's trying to figure it out. And that's the most basic setup. And then, you could apply that to anything. And one of our writers wrote something that night that was based on just that idea, just gave him a thought. He came up with a story, he pitched it, we took it and we published it. So Scott's involved in a lot of ways, just as sort of inspiration of the whole thing and kind of bringing us all together in the first place. But he actually is sort of consulted on a lot of the stories when he has time. He's a little bit busy completely recreating the DC universe. You might have heard, but when he's got a little bit of time in between that, he he gives it to us, and it's really gracious and awesome of him. But we'll keep doing the book for as long as he's happy to let us besmirch his good name with our scribblings.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the tiers. Okay, so obviously you have the pledge without a reward. Then you have the digital version, which is pretty self-explanatory. You have the A cover.
We have 3 covers. They're all $15. I know a lot of people will do like, the standard cover, but we just have 3. We basically have 3 options for your standard cover. One of them, the first one, is done by Matt Salisbury. He's actually a student in the class too. So that one is sort of like marionettes in front of a spooky curtain there. That's one of the odd. He's written a few stories for the book in the past too. And then this one's Pablo Verdugo, and it's colored by Linda Campbell. It's sort of like all the main characters from each story reimagined as a box of toys. And then there's one story in the book called The Monsters We Make, and it's about a kid who returns home and is sort of facing his mom, who he has come to view as sort of a monster. And so this cover is inspired by that story, where mom is sort of making soup, but all the characters are boiling away in the soup.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. That's always a hard thing to do when you do an anthology. I never know what to put on the cover because it can be hard. It can be hard to just pick the character or.
Yeah, we've struggled with that, and we had Matt at one point pitch us a couple of concepts, like character designs for a sort of crypt keeper like character, like someone who would be the one welcoming you into the cloakroom to tell you all these stories. But the thing is, it's weird because our organizing principle is not a genre. It's not like a story feature. It's Scott. It's just that we all came together because of Scott. And so if you pitch us a comedy, we'll publish it. If you pitch us a horror story, we'll publish it. If it's a funny twist on a horror theme, we'll publish it. If it's sci-fi, we'll publish it. Like there isn't really there aren't guardrails around the kind of story you can pitch us. So it's very hard to come up with a cover that makes sense for that. So we end up with these things where it's like playing on the idea that you never know what you're going to get when you come into the cloakroom, and even that can be spooky. Even if once you get in there, it's fun. Sometimes it's fun, but sometimes it's scary. So we end up with some version of that on almost every cover.
Well, I'm obviously intrigued. I'm gonna back the book. I want to see what all you guys are doing, and I'm intrigued by the class too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. I think a lot of people are on Scott's Substack because they're fans and they just like listening to him talk about the craft and just kind of keep tabs on him. Again, it's all through his newsletter, through his Substack. So I think he's got a very big following there. And I think it's a lot of it is people that are not necessarily there to learn something to apply to their craft. But then there are these people who are paying for a little bit of extra access and who go back and are actually taking the lessons and listening to what Scott's talking about in the classes and kind of applying it directly to what they're working on. And so we just, we really like that we can give them a sort of, give them an outlet for that. Thanks, Grant.
Yeah, no problem. Here we go. I think if I click that, it'll take me back. Yeah, so this is, I don't know, it's a pretty interesting idea. I think you seem like you're doing pretty well. I mean, you've got 124 backers. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, we're sort of on the back end of I think we've got just over 8 days to go, or just under. We may have just crossed over an hour, like a half hour ago. So we've got 8 days to go, and we still have another, 1,300 or so to make up. So it's not this is something I've learned on Kickstarter. Every campaign is different and every campaign is weird for different reasons. It's something that Justin Gray, who's another creator, does a lot on Kickstarter. He said to me once, and it's true. I keep comparing. The little chart they show you where your progress, the little progress bar. I keep
Yeah.
comparing it to previous campaigns, and it's really like our target for this one is 5,000. I had set a lower target for our last campaign because we were doing one during the holiday season, and I was told Kickstarter, it's harder to raise money during the holidays. But our holiday issue funded pretty well and pretty, like at the end, it was just kind of gravy what we were getting at the end. So we crossed our 4,000, whatever it was we asked for, and we ended up with like 5,300. But the previous issue was growing a lot more slowly throughout the whole campaign and was at a much lower level. And then we made up a lot on the last 2 days. You know how you get that little bump at the end? For that one, it was a very big bump, and we ended up over 6,000. So it's like every time I look at it, I'm like, I start doing the math, and I'm like, we have to make like $200 a day if we're not going to make it, and I start to freak out. And then I try to remember, like, okay, there'll be one or two more big pledges and a lot of little ones, and it'll be fine. You'll be fine.
You know what? I've never actually sat down and looked at that. I might. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I want to, because I might drive myself crazy like that.
Oh, that's it.
I don't know. Do you recommend that, or?
I mean, it depends on how much if my attitude is, if you're going to use the data is helpful. If you're just going to, if the knowing that having access to more information is just going to make you crazy, don't even look at it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So now, did you edit this comic book, or did you also write a story in it?
So Veronica and I have not done our own stories yet. I'm planning to write one for the holiday issue this year. I'm not sure if Veronica will get a chance to write one. If she does one, it'll also be a holiday issue or the one that comes after that if we keep going after that. So but as of right now, the two of us, we're both writers too, and we've both printed other stories and gone through the process with Scott of kind of like talking through our ideas and all that. But for this project, we specifically wanted to flex a different creative muscle. We wanted to be the editors. We wanted to be, we wanted you to come to us with your idea, and we wanted to help you make it better, and not ever say, well, here's how I would write it. You know what I mean? So that's what we've done. So we haven't really made time to write a story ourselves for this. So we both will, I think.
Okay. Now, is this anthology something that you want to like springboard into something else? Like, do you have ideas for like an ongoing series, or do you just kind of like doing the anthology?
I like doing the anthology. There's a couple of, some of the creators in here have shown us other stories just for opinions, and a few have expressed an interest in kind of building out a whole world for their own stories. And I'm always happy to kind of help someone with their project that way. I have two of my own projects that I write that are, have both been on Kickstarter and will be again soon, that are separate from this. They've never been short stories in the Cloakroom. So the idea I have for a short that I would put in the Cloakroom, I don't think lends itself to a bigger series. And some of them don't, but a couple of the stories that have been pitched to us are intentionally designed to sort of be the beginning of a much bigger thing.
So do you want to tell us about the other two series that you do? I mean, those are out in the ether now. They're not like ideas.
Yeah, no. I've done Kickstarters for both of them. One of them I'm actually very behind on in fulfilling. It's called The Grizzly Crew. It's something that I write with my son, who he was, I think, 7, and he pitched it to me out of nowhere. He walked into my office, and it was the day that Midjourney came out for the first time, where people were using the AI thing, and I was like a lot of people, I think I was logging into it to just make sure, okay, this isn't like Skynet, the end of the world, right? So I was messing around with it, and he walked into my office and saw all these amorphous animals and weird shit on my screen, and he was like, "What is this?" And I told him, because I answer questions because I'm an idiot. So I was like, "It's an artificial intelligence art generator." And he's like, "What's that?" I said, "Well, it's a computer, and it'll look at a lot of other art all over the internet, and it'll try to combine things and make the thing that you want." So he was like, "Does it make a Spider-Man monkey?" And I went, "I don't know." And I typed in Spider-Man monkey, and it pooped out a little weird monkey thing. Eventually, he got around to saying a pirate bear, and then he started pitching. He was staring at this like mangled face, silhouetted, horrific looking bear on a hill with a captain's hat on, and he just started telling me the story, like totally out of nowhere. He just was like, "It's the his name's Captain Grizzly, and he's the captain of a ship of pirates, but they're all bears." And they all go looking for honey, for treasure, but it's not treasure, it's honey. And it looks like treasure, but it's wax filled with honey. And I was like, what? And then he finally goes, it's called the Grizzly Crew. And I was like, stop talking. And I started taking notes. And then we've been bouncing it back and forth. And so he gives notes to the artist. It's like he's in his glory. It's great. So that's one story. I'm in the middle of fulfilling that first issue, which again, that I fell behind on that one. I did that, and then we bought a house and we moved, and then the cloakroom took up a lot of my thing, and then I have a day job that also took up all my world. Yeah, and the thing is, I've done so many other books that I've fulfilled since then. It's just ludicrous that I haven't finished that one. So we're finishing that one right now, and that I'll be shipping that out this summer for sure. And then the other one I do is Cicada Samurai, which is something I wrote, a 10-page short that I wrote. This is the one that I showed to Scott, way back. It's like 3 years ago now. And it's, it's a story about, it's sort of a samurai story. It's, cicadas come out this is the brood that comes out every 17 years. So this was all going on towards the end of the pandemic, when I think everyone's anxiety about keeping their families alive was at like a high point. And, I have 3 kids. And so even in normal times, keeping 3 kids alive is like a nerve-wracking experience. So I started thinking, okay, this is the cicadas are, and then there was a big brood that came out in 2021. So I became obsessed with cicadas and started reading about them. So I just combined those 2 things. And it was basically, it's the story of one immortal cicada imbued with magical samurai fighting powers. He is the only one. Like all the other cicadas are born and then they mate and they die. He lives forever. He lives until he is killed. And he's done 6 cycles now, and his job is to protect the brood so that they can mate and do their thing to keep the species going. And he protects them from cicada killing hornet, from all these big monstrous birds that want to kill them and eat them. And it all came from like my paranoia about my kids, right? Like keeping 3 kids alive is nerve-wracking. Imagine there are 1 billion of them, and they're all turning 17 on the same day, and they're all going to prom, and they're all going to go out, and they're all trying to go out and get in trouble and misbehave, and you have to try and keep them alive all night, So that's kind of the story.
Yeah, that sounds horrifying.
It's horrifying, right?
Is that kind of the gist, that it's supposed to be like, oh my God, this is so horrifying?
Well, if you're a parent and you're reading the story, you'll recognize a lot of the kind of flippant things that Cicada Samurai, his name is Roju, that he'll say during the course of the story, where it's like a parent who's just like, oh my God, these kids. Like there's kind of an element of that to it. But the story itself is, there's this monster cicada killing hornet that's trying to eat as many of the cicadas as possible and feed them to her young. And so, that's also sort of a monster based on like, they all kind of, it's all very, the initial character designs were done by Takashi Okazaki. He does like the Star Wars Visions series now.
Oh, cool.
And he did Afro Samurai. He's a very big like anime manga artist, and he does a lot of video game stuff. And so he did the initial character. I reached out to him on Instagram, and I just was like, hey, I have this idea. Do you have any interest? And he got back to me and was like, yeah. And so he did the character designs initially, which was awesome. Wow. So those are very cool. And then
sometimes you do those long shot messages to people who you think are out of your league. Totally. And sometimes they're not as out of your league as you think they are.
It's worth it. I mean, if you have a fun idea and they want to talk to you about it, the worst case scenario is that you don't hear from them. But anything more than that is good. Just like, Kurosawa isn't around. If I want to write a samurai story, Takashi Okazaki's not a bad person to bounce the ideas off of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got very lucky there. And then my artist for the series is Mary Landro. Takashi is like from the beginning said, "There's no way I'll have time to actually do the book. I have too many things coming out," and turned out he was doing Star Wars.
Yeah.
But my artist is this woman in Canada, Mary Landreau. She's fantastic. She has a little bit more of like an anime style than a manga style, but so she slightly redesigned the characters to suit her own style, and I think it still came out really great. And so we did a 10-page short. I'm almost done writing the first full issue. I've got a 5-issue arc planned out, so hopefully there'll be more of that on soon.
Oh, okay. So now do you have just the one child, or do you have multiple kids?
I have 3.
You have 3 kids. Okay. So you do a comic book with the 7-year-old. Is he your youngest or your oldest?
He's the youngest, and he's actually he pitched it to me when he was 6 or 7. He was almost 7. And then so he's 9 now. He just turned 9 in January. And the other 2 are
So
14 and 12.
Now, are you worried that as he gets older, it's going to be harder to do the comic book because he's going to lose that childlike imagination?
Well, we've kind of plotted out the first. You can't stop him. So, like we got through just the setup, and then he told me what he thought the story was for the whole what would be the first arc. He created the big villain in the series. There's another ship with all the pirates are, hyena or dog or wolf adjacent animals, and Captain Wolfheart is the evil villain. So we've already kind of talked through the first. I just have to write it. We talked. I have an outline for the first like two big story arcs for it. I just need to get the script done and put it in front of my buddy Nick, who draws it, who's amazing.
Yeah. And you give your son like veto power as well, like.
Well, he's funny because I'm like he kind of came. We get like co-creator. The way I'm going to credit it when it's published finally is co-creators, but I'm writing it, and he'll like I showed him early designs for the characters, and he had notes about like the koala bear. He's like, no, Dad, the koala bear's feet look too much like feet. They're not feet. Like koalas, their feet are almost like hands; they can grab things with them. So I had to have Nick draw the feet, and then he goes, and koalas have 2 thumbs, and I was like, yeah, we have 2 thumbs too. And he's like, no, they have like 2 thumbs on one hand, like they have 2 opposable thumbs in one direction and 3 fingers in the other direction.
Is that true?
Yes, and I had no idea. He went on YouTube and started researching all these like animal stories.
Wow.
So I learned about koalas because my son was like, no, Dad, they have 2 thumbs on each hand. I was like, oh, what? I looked it up. They do. And he's really smart about he's weirdly smart about story for a kid who like doesn't have that kind of experience. He just like the koala, for example. So we were coming up with bears that could be on the ship, and he goes, what about a koala bear? And I said, well, koala bears, they're just koalas. They're not really bears. It's a totally different, they're actually marsupials. They're like a totally different kind of animal. They're not anywhere near related to bears. And he goes, well, maybe he doesn't know that. And I was like, what? He goes, maybe they've been calling him, he's like, they call him a koala bear. Maybe he thinks he's a real bear. So he wants to be in the bear pirate crew and fight the evil pirates. Maybe he doesn't know. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's great. It's a great idea.
A koala bear who's mad that we don't consider koala bears to be actual bears.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pull up. This is a page that Nick just inked like a week ago, a couple actually, like maybe 2 weeks ago now. But let me see if I can pull it up. The story in this first issue is how Jimmy, who's the little koala bear, joins the Grizzly Crew, how he comes to become a member of the Grizzly Crew. And so we had this, I wrote there's a panel where like he's mad at them because they're laughing at him because he says I'm a bear and I'm going to join the thing. And they're like laughing at him for thinking that he's really a bear. And then he runs away, pissed before he finds his way onto the ship anyway. I gotta find it. I may need to do a little more digging before I find it. But this is the page. This is the ink page from the. Can you see that? I don't know if you can actually see that.
Yeah.
These are all the characters. Those are all the characters.
Oh wow, it's very detailed.
There it is. Yeah, Nick like went above and beyond with this one. He I know it's like going black and white there. I don't know why. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm looking at the chat. A few other people are impressed. Donna says, "I think it's cool for you to collaborate with your son." Carl is saying, "Smart kid." Donna is saying, "That's a great idea." So sounds like you maybe have some fans.
Nice. I'll make sure you guys know when the next one comes out. To that end, actually, while we're talking about it, if you guys, the way that I'm social media, the place where I'm most active and where you can kind of keep tabs on everything, is on my Substack, jerrycarita.substack.com. And if you're a subscriber to the newsletter, you get a discount on shipping for anything you order through any Kickstarter. So if anyone watching this is going to back the Cloakroom, you know, if you order the big cob where you're getting like 6 books and they're big and heavy, you get a $4 discount on shipping anywhere in the world. So stateside, you might be only paying $2 to $2 to $3 for shipping total.
So you have a paid Substack?
No, I do that for my free subscribers.
Oh, you just do that for your paid subscribers? Okay, cool.
Yeah, my free ones.
Some people have suggested that I do the paid, but I don't know what I would put on it, and I don't know. My fear isn't that 0 people would join my paid Substack. My fear is that like 5 people would join my Substack. You know, just enough to make me feel guilty for taking their money, but not enough. But not enough for me to really feel like it's worth it to update it all the time. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's fair. I get that. There's sort of like I mean, what you're describing is like what I think a lot of people who are in indie comics feel. It's sort of that imposter syndrome thing where it's like you start to feel like, why would anyone pay me? And then if only a couple people are paying me, it's like, should I really even be taking their money? Like, I feel like I'm not giving them enough. It's not worth it, you know? But I think people, you know, if people like what you're doing, they want to support you. I think giving them an avenue to do that is probably a good thing. I haven't set it up myself, and it's the same reason. I'm always like, it would feel to me like another pressure to deliver something else on a monthly basis to a group of people, you know, and it's just I don't want to disappoint people, so I'm afraid of that, so I don't do it. But I'm also not churning out enough content as a creator or digitally or anything. Like you're doing a podcast in addition to whatever comic book work you're doing. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. So I have even fewer avenues of stuff to share, you know, behind the scenes or advice. Like I don't, you know. So it's hard it's definitely a hard hump to get over mentally, to be like, you know what? I think people should pay me for the work I'm doing. And I think that I'm okay with that.
Well, I mean, but also, you know, I mean, I hear a lot from a lot of people, like they say like, well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? And my answer is because there's 24 hours in a day. Like I can't do everything. Like you said, I'm doing a show. Normally I draw during the show, so which is I don't know. I haven't really been doing that today. But I mean, the nice thing about that is that, you know, I kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But yeah, it can be hard to figure out where that line is as far as like what is the right amount of promotion versus, you know, every minute that you're spending promoting is a minute you could be working on your comic book. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what other means do you use to promote this comic book other than coming on shows like mine?
I do a lot of these. I do, I'm on, like I said, I'm on my Substack. I keep that down to like, it's mostly people who supported me in one way or another or are going to. So I have a very good engagement. I don't have a ton of followers on there, But the subscribers I do have are almost all people who have at some point bought something that I made or edited or published. So I have a pretty good engagement right there. I use BackerKit. I've done, I think this is my 7th or 8th campaign that I've managed in one way or another, whether I was the creator or the editor or just the publisher. So I have a decent number of people on there who are good supporters and come back time after time. I do a lot of stuff on Discord where I talk to people, especially in Scott's class, other people, and a lot of supporters are people from the class. A lot of them are people who supported the original book or have been published by the series already, or hope to be published in the future. So they want to make sure it keeps going and it remains sort of feasible for me to keep it going. And then I do, social media stuff. I'm on Blue Sky more actively than anywhere else, but I'm also on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I'll more passively post to those locations and tag all the right people and make sure I get on there once a day to just share the link and get the word out that way. This time, for the first time, I'm actually running Facebook ads, which I haven't really done before. And I'm spending a modest amount of money, but I'm actually seeing some. I know people complain about these, but I'm seeing some success because I think I just targeted them at a very kind of narrow group of people.
Yeah, so I've never done Facebook ads, and I think the reason why is because I'm a little bit nervous about it, just because it is money out of your pocket.
Yes.
And if you don't know what you're doing, it sucks to be spending money while you kind of learn what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I actually, so for an earlier campaign, I tried it, and for a couple of days I had a few ads running, but I wasn't getting any traction with them. And what I learned, well, first thing is like the algorithm on all those platforms, it takes a bit to kind of figure out who really is and isn't going to be interested in what you're selling. But in this case, what I figured out is because of Scott's involvement, you can target people who specifically like Scott's page. He's got such a big following on Facebook. He's considered like a topic. So you can kind of target the cross section of people who like Scott, like comic books, and know what Kickstarter is. And you can kind of then, tailor it so that you're, instead of trying to hit like 80 million people who are of a certain age and might like comics, you're down to more like 6 or 7 million people. So you can spend a less money and get a little bit more out of it. And I've gotten a couple, those, what you pointed out earlier, one of the rewards, Scott will sign 5 copies for every campaign that we do. That's our biggest reward. We limit it to just 5 because we don't want to make Scott, do too much, like writing his name. But just because we want them to be rare too, we want them to be collectible and kind of a cool thing to have and a unique reward. So we limit them, but I think two of the ones we've sold of those were through Facebook ad. Like people who clicked on the link through the Facebook ad ended up buying the signed copy from Scott. So it can be valuable, if you have a narrow enough target and you know how to target people. This is what I'm learning. It's I think that if I do another one and I end up doing ads again, I'll know a little bit more, and hopefully I get better at it. And, maybe it is something I use more frequently.
Well, but I mean, the other thing is, once they've backed one comic book, then, BackerKit has their email address. So maybe in the future, you don't have to keep doing all those Facebook ads. I don't know.
Exactly. But, yeah. And the thing with my Substack, I primarily get people on my Substack through the survey. So at the end of every campaign, I'll ask, do you want to join this? You get a discount on future campaigns, and people will check yes or no, and then I add them. But so I have, like I said, it's a pretty good dedicated group of people, and it's a lot of people from the class, a lot of friends, a lot of people who support what we've been doing. So it's cool.
You're much more polite than I am. I put in the survey, unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to put you on my own list.
See, I've already got that list. I heard that's my BackerKit list. So I just hit everybody who supported me on BackerKit, 2 or 3 times during the course of the campaign, when they launch, when you're almost done, some point in the middle, if you add a new reward or unlock something. But my Substack, I wanted them to be people who were there voluntarily engaged, like specifically, so that if I send them something that isn't like, hey, I'm selling you something, they don't view it as spam and want to get off the list right away,
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I'm curating
Um,
it a little bit more.
yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, all this talk about promotion isn't too boring for the audience. Carl is saying some of those promotions depend on your personality.
Are you attacking me, Carl? You're saying I don't have a
Well,
good personality? I'm kidding. It's a joke. Just
yeah,
kidding.
Carl's a pretty abrasive guy, so he would probably be the type to attack you. No, I'm not gonna lie to you. There was like a split second where I was like, "Is he joking?"
No. I kind of knew he wasn't. Yeah. No, the promotions. It depends on like, it all depends. It all depends on your personality and how people kind of connect to you and connect to what you're doing. So you're either doing something that they're going to love or they want to support you because they like you. Um. Oh, he's not
Well,
doing it. Yeah.
and you know
That
what
makes
they
sense.
say? They say if people do unsubscribe, that's a good thing because that's somebody who's not interested in your books. So it's one less person in your on your subscription that you don't need, right?
Right, exactly, and that's what I've been saying that's why I don't try and push the Substack too much. I just say like, if you're gonna buy more than one book from me, it's worth it because you get a discount every time. Um, and if you're just interested in what we're doing, if I'm gonna have other stuff coming out later, like sometimes I write a post and it's just I write like once every 3 to 5 weeks, so you're going to get a sometimes monthly email from me. I'm not spamming you, you know and it's when I'm selling something, I might send two in a month, and otherwise, like I reviewed the season of Daredevil Born Again, like I did that as a post. So it's not just directly, I mean, it's comics adjacent, but it's not just like, hey, I'm selling you things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I find that, like I said, the line between like promotion and where you draw the line, like as far as how much promotion is too much promotion, it can get pretty complicated, right?
Yeah. Well, I always have to remind myself, do you know who Brad Geiger is?
Yeah.
Brad does that podcast with Dave Kellett about comics and cartooning. It's a lot more
Yeah.
cartooning related stuff. But he does a thing called Evil Inc. And he said something that um, they said something on a podcast that kind of helped me get over that. And it's that everyone complains about the algorithms on all these social media platforms because they don't show everything you post to all of your followers. So if you're posting something on Facebook and you're worried about posting it again later that day, the next morning, or posting something similar, like don't be, because the fact is if you have a few hundred followers or a few thousand followers, most of them didn't see the first one. The algorithm is not showing it to everybody all the time. It shows different things to different people at different times. So you have to post different stuff at different times. You have to post a bunch of times. People are following you because they want to see your stuff. If you're doing it too much, they'll just scroll past it. They're not People are not unsubscribing from Facebook because of like you posted too many times about your comic book. They followed you. They want to know what you're doing. They want to make sure they don't miss it. So you got to remember that like just because you put a story on Instagram, like I work, I'm a television producer during the day, and so I have days where I'm not looking at my social media, so I miss things. I don't know about it. So if you post about League of Cryptids on Monday, I might not go back and look at Facebook until Thursday. Is the algorithm still going to show me what you posted on Monday? Probably not. But if you posted it a couple times in between and sometime closer to when I log in, it's more likely going to show it to the people who are interested. So you kind of have to spam your own social media outlets. People are not looking at everything anyway. So you have to, if you want to hit everybody or hit most of your followers, you have to do it. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So Carl just commented that Facebook doesn't even show him what his wife posts. I had the same problem. And you can go through and block people and ask it to feature certain people. But the fact is, the algorithm is supposed to do that for you. And it just doesn't do it. It just doesn't like. So imagine if it's just like some random person that likes a comic book you did and they decided to like your Facebook page. And then they're casual Facebook people. They're only checking in once every couple of days. If you want that person to see that you have another book out, you have to post more than once a week. You can't just post and be like, I don't want to bother people. They're there to be bothered. They want to see
Right.
what you're up to, you know?
Well, something that I was saying to somebody on a different one of these that I did, like she was saying, like, I don't see the point in doing a newsletter because all of the people who would read my newsletter are probably Facebook friends anyway, so they're going to see my posts on Facebook. And I said to her, okay, Coca-Cola is never going to say to itself, everybody already knows what Coca-Cola is.
Right.
They're gonna say, we want people to see that logo 3 or 4 times a day, minimum.
I forget what the number is, but like there's a number where like a person has to see a commercial on television X number of times before the brand name sinks in. So just because you posted it once doesn't mean you did your job. They have to see it a few times. So people at the cross section of Scott Snyder, comic books, and Kickstarter probably are seeing my ad. You know, it's been running for a few days. They're probably going to see it like 3 or 4 more times over the next few days until the ad ends. And one of those times they may go, what is this thing I keep seeing? You know, and that's how it works. You don't click on a thing the first time you see it. You don't even necessarily see it really. You don't necessarily absorb it. So you kind of have to get hit a few times. That's what you're saying about Coca-Cola. Like they're not going to stop doing Coke ads just because we all know what Coke is.
Right.
They're going to keep reminding you about the product.
I'm gonna look and see if there's anything else in the chat that I need to bring up. It doesn't look like it. I think I got all of these, or else you got them. So you were talking about. I try to keep these under an hour.
Yeah, of
So, you were talking about your Substack. Can you repeat the Substack again?
Yeah, it's my name. It's jerrycarita.substack.com. I'll put it in the comments here. Just if anyone is on there and wants to. Oh, failed to post.
Oh, you know what? I think that's because you don't have the wrench. If you want to put it in the private chat, I'll copy and paste it in.
Yeah, I'll actually. Do you want to go to yours? You want to show them both?
Sure.
Right? Why not?
I actually have mine open right now.
There you go. I'm going to send you the link to mine. Oh, that's not it.
So is that coming up? Yeah. So this is my newsletter. Now that I'm here, I realize it's not the most visually.
Well, you're on your dashboard page.
Yeah.
So we're all seeing all of your stats there too. If you just erase the, I think if you just hit the banner at the top, it might just go to your actual page. And it's a little bit more where it says Grant Lankard's newsletter. I think if you just tap that, it'll go to the actual what people see when they go to sign in. There it is.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I'll put this in the chat. Donna says we creatives have a short attention span. You're probably right. So this is my Substack, which I just posted, and then you said yours is just Jerry.
I sent the link in the private chat.
Oh, perfect.
So it's jerrycarita.substack.com.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to share yours.
I actually haven't done one in a minute. I did one at the beginning of this campaign. I don't think I've done
Oh,
one.
really? So I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest with you. I do a bunch whenever I'm live on Kickstarter. I probably do like one a week,
Yep.
which that's a. I mean, that's a lot, but not a lot compared to some of the guys that I.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like people post every day. People with Substacks that are successful, they post every day sometimes. Like it's whatever works for you, man. Like don't be here. We're gonna X that out, the subscribe page, unless you want to hit subscribe first, Grant. And then you can
Oh,
then you can hit the little X.
yeah.
Oh wow.
I'll
Keep it
recommend.
going, huh? You could do all that later.
Cool.
So there it is. That's my welcome. When you sign up, you get that welcome thing, and then I do a few that went away. We're not sharing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I follow a lot of newsletters, and I actually look at them because I like to see what other people are doing. I know a lot of people complain that they subscribe to them and then they never open them, but um, I don't know. I'm curious to see what you do with your newsletter.
I mean, I try to send things that are not just about the thing that's on live on Kickstarter. So like I said, I did one that was just like an update on like when I get a box of comics that I'm going to start shipping out to people to start fulfillment. I'll do a little post and kind of share that I have them and the books are coming. And when this one went live, I did a post. I've done 2 posts about this campaign so far. I'll probably do one more in the next couple of days. But I did when Diamond Distributions, when they declared bankruptcy, I did a little post about that and just my thoughts on it and stuff like that.
Sounds great. I do think I'm going to finish the show now. Did you have any other social medias you wanted to mention?
My publisher is Thorny Comics, like a thorny rose. And so I'm at Thorny Comics almost everywhere. I'm the only one anywhere that
Oh,
I can
cool.
find. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. The one where I'm most active is Blue Sky and the Substack. So on those 2.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jerry. And thank you,
Thank
everybody
you,
who
Grant.
watched. We will be back next week. And I don't know who my guest will be, but I'm sure it'll be somebody great. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And thank you for being on the show, Jerry. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.